All right.
This meeting is being
All right, everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the Texas League weekly video show. So, our gracious commissioner did a thing for the group this year where we were able to get a podcast to review and um, rank our draft this year. So that gave me an idea of maybe some of us getting together to sort of do a little weekly breakdown of our league, do some previewing, and kind of take us through what we're going through this year. Um, Jared and Robert, aka the Deuce, and I have talked about doing some version of a fantasy podcast for a couple of years now. So this is our way of sort of doing something for the league. And so it's just the three of us this week, but we may have some special guests, which will include you, the members of our league, throughout this season. So before we begin, I'm going to ask the other gentlemen to introduce themselves, their real name, their team name, where they're from, and how long they've been in the league. So I'll start with Brother Caldwell.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Obviously, my real name is Robert Caldwell, aka the Deuce, because what can I say? I am who I am. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been in the league now, I don't know, 15, 16 years. Counting out, remember when you started this thing, but I think we started on that one NFL coach game, if memory serves, back in the day. My team name, I think, is pretty obvious. The greatest team in the land. I still say San Diego because they near and dear to my heart, was the Los Angeles Chargers. Because what can I say? They're the best.
Yeah. and what team do you manage in the Texas League?
Oh, my apologies. I manage the greatest. Math is king because let's just face it, math makes the world go round. You can't have a king without math. I'm just saying.
Spoken like a man with a PhD in mathematics. And next we'll go to our illustrious commissioner.
Pretty sure everybody knows my name but I'm gonna follow the protocol. My name is Jared Cowan. I manage the team that I'm calling this year, Stairway to Evans. And this would be year 16 of this league, because as Robert said, it started on a fantasy site that was hosted by EA Sports that went defunct. So that's how we ended up on Yahoo.
They must have moved those guys from EA Sports Fantasy to the Madden design team.
You know, I don't know where they went, but they just I would just like to throw out just say they need to bring back NCAA and do it right. But that's a whole side note.
All right. And I am Dwayne Morrow. I either joined this league in 2009 or 2010. So I've also been in the league. It's either 12 or 13 years. I can't remember exactly which year I joined, but it's been fun ever since I've been a part of it. So I took over a team my first year. So the first couple of years were a challenge because the team I took over was garbage. I wish I'd have known I wish we'd have had the option way back then of not having to keep anybody, because that's exactly what I would have done that first team I took over. But the team I manage in this league is Devastator, and my favorite team, of course, is the Las Vegas Raiders. A team with actual Super Bowls, and not the only team in the AFC West that's holding us up from being a division with everyone with the Super Bowl. But hey.
Hey, we're playing for keeps. Got it.
All right. So this league's been pretty fun. Jared has been able to mess with me because I've brought in a couple of close personal friends of mine that have joined the league that have both won the league.
Ringers. Those are ringers.
And I unfortunately have not even made the championship game in this league yet. Jared, you've won this thing how many times? 2 or 3?
3 times.
He's won it 3 times. So as a commissioner, that's something that you kind of hope happens, or you kind of expect. But Cowan sucks, so I guess we couldn't really expect too much of it. So
you are entitled to your opinion, sir.
But again, I can't say.
But you and the other person on this video chat both are just like his favorite team, ringless.
Ouch. That's
the facts.
Hey, I've at least made the championship in our league. I just didn't win. Just throwing it out there. So
you have.
I have not yet made it
like,
to the
just like
circle.
just like you told me last weekend, almost doesn't count.
No, it does not.
You're right.
No, it does not. So
if Dwayne will start bringing in these ringers and win one for himself, he'd be okay.
Listen, I did not bring them in to prevent me from winning the title. Trust me, that was definitely not my goal.
You brought people in here to prevent Chris from winning because both of your ringers didn't beat Chris.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that if we have Chris on as a guest this year. I'm sure he won't appreciate rehashing that because if I remember correctly, both times Chris was beating the championship was right before a PlayStation release where Chris had earmarked the fund from the championship with purchasing a new system. So I do feel kind of bad. So
no, you don't.
I do. I feel worse because it wasn't me winning, but I do feel bad for Chris. All right, so let's jump right into last weekend's restart. So in this league, this is a keeper league, but every 5 years we do a restart. And so this year we did something new, which was we gathered about half the league gathered together in Houston, and some of us were able to meet in person for the first time after 10 plus years of interacting and talking to people, even with the people who actually live in. I didn't realize that there was somebody else from the league that actually lived in Houston that I hadn't met yet. Not only does he live in Houston, he lives around the corner from Calvin. So that was interesting. But so Jared, what made you decide to have us get together?
First off, I was trying to celebrate my birthday. I celebrate every 5 years, like those are like on the 5s and 10s, I guess you could say. And so take that in consideration with the fact we got this pandemic that's still lingering, and a lot of people are only getting together now for unfortunate circumstances. I would get together for I guess you could say, a joyous occasion, bring people for something other than funerals.
That's what's up. So I can say that we had a good time. It sucks for the people who weren't able to join us on the party bus because after the draft, we got it in. I think I got back to my hotel a little bit after 4 and had a great old time. But the other thing, as I mentioned earlier, was after the draft, Jared sent the picks off to a podcast called Go for Two. And they took an objective look at our draft results. I don't know about
objective. It sounded kind of subjective because they was hating on my name, but that's okay.
Well, they definitely were hating on your name, but they had their reason. But so they took an outside.
Even though they ranked me 12th, I haven't quit being because they said about my team that I felt after I drafted it. So, I can admit that I think they did a pretty good job. Somebody might not feel that way because they talk this team draft strategy, but it is what it is, Ms. Caldwell.
I'm just saying, man. So it was very interesting to hear outsiders give us a perspective because we talked a lot about this stuff live. So obviously, Jared not happy with his number 12 ranking. Mathis King, they had you at 8. How do you feel about your ranking?
I have an issue with that, honestly. I think I'm looking at things that they're not. Obviously, they're looking at things that I'm not because I don't find it statistically as important. But since I haven't won a championship, maybe I need to rethink what I'm looking at. But that's okay.
Listen, man, don't get bogged down in the analytics. I know you're a math guy, but it's okay sometimes for you to go with your gut. That's
no,
okay.
can't do it. Can't do it. Analytics is king because math is king. You see, it's like that segue? Just saying.
Very clear. So real quick, was it analytics that made the Chargers coach call that timeout in overtime last year versus the Raiders?
No, that was straight emotion. And that was just, wow. I ain't know. I'm trying to keep this PG. So, no, that was not analytics, my dear friend. That was definitely all of raw emotion.
Just checking.
I appreciate you asking, though.
So, again, just touching on our dear friend Chris. They had Chris ranked at number 6, and they really liked Chris's pick of Christian McCaffrey. So for those of us who were in the room and for people who weren't there, Christian McCaffrey was a long discussion prior to the start of the draft about when he would actually be picked. So I think picks pretty much 1 through 8 were in the room. And everyone to a person had said, I'm not going to pick him. And I was adamant that he was not going to make it past the first pick of the second round because he had too much upside. Like, yes, injuries are a real concern over the last 2 seasons, but with the type of injuries, every fantasy expert has said that they are not concerned and they think that CMC is was no lower than the 3rd ranked running back, and in a lot of places, 2nd. So Chris adamantly stated that he was not going to pick Run CMC if given the opportunity. So as Chris is on the clock and the clock is counting down, everyone can see that the auto draft option is going to be Christian McCaffrey. So I'm sitting next to Chris and he's tapping furiously on his computer. Why didn't they let my pick? I can't pick my man. And so I finally asked, well, who are you trying to pick? Najee Harris. You mean the player that just got picked before you? And as Chris is saying, to refresh his screen to check his options, bam. Chris is the proud owner of Christian McCaffrey for this season. So congratulations, Chris, on getting past the controversial pick. And
don't forget, Cal would come running out of his office like, what the?
Again, because Cal, we knew for sure that everyone in the room had already said, I'm not taking him in the first round. I still think, I actually wish that he would have failed to Adam at 11 or 12 just to see the look on Adam's face when he had to decide whether or not to pass him up in the first round. So they had me ranked at number 2, thanks to one hater who had dropped my ranking all the way down to 6. So, but again, I disagree. But in their eyes, our best post-draft team went to Muff Divers and Adam. So congratulations, Adam, on a fictional preseason number 1 ranking. So we'll see where things shake out at the end of the year. So now let's jump into the grit of what we'll be doing a lot of this year, which is actually reviewing our league's games, the head-to-head matches, and we will be picking who we think will win each match each week. And we will keep track, thanks to our handy on-staff mathematician, of who gets the most right this season. So the first matchup we're going to be reviewing today is 2 boobs, 2 balls, 1 goal versus Armed Rodgery. So, Jared, we're going to start with a review of 2 boobs, 2 balls. What do you like about their team this week?
This week, I like Josh Allen in a shootout because the Buffalo secondary is depleted due to injuries and people leaving the team. So when your defense sucks, you got to score to keep up. And we all know the Rams can put up. They are trying to bring back what I like to call the next rendition of the Greatest Show on Turf, putting up points left and right. So I think Josh Allen they're going to have a shootout to keep up. You got A.J. Brown over on this team. They didn't trade a first-round pick not to throw in the ball. I think he's going to get some points. And you also got Knox, the tight end for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen got to throw it to somebody, and Stephon Diggs is going to be seeing, in my opinion, he's going to see Ramsey. So somebody got to catch the ball other than Diggs.
That's
And
a
he got a
very
solid pair of running backs in Mixon and Jacobs. Yeah, I know you're gonna shake your head because you're a Raiders fan. I said Jacobs was solid, but I can give credit where credit is due. I think Mixon and Jacobs gonna have some solid games. They got Allen. They have Adam Thielen in the flex. They playing the Packers. The Vikings are trying to prove this is their year to take the division. You got Justin Jefferson, who's offsetting them. Thielen. They're gonna roll coverage, in my opinion, to Jefferson. Thielen gonna be open, gonna make some plays.
interesting. All right. So, Deuce, tell us what you like about armed robbery.
Well, what I like about Aaron Rodgers as a Charger fan, I like what Eckler's going to end up doing this year. I mean, he's going to get the rock. He's going to run the rock. He's going to run it hard. Statistically, the Raiders haven't fared so well against him because he can also catch the ball in the flat. So it's like he's a double threat. Now, if the Raiders kind of pay more attention to him, then they're going to leave their deep threats open. So Raiders are kind of hosed this week. That's just my personal opinion when I'm talking about this team right here. They also have Kelsey. Kelsey's kind of bona fide. He's a name brand. He gonna get his points. Burrow, I'm a little bit of a question on Burrow a little bit. I respect his game. I respect what he's done. But what Burrow are we gonna get? Are we gonna get the injured Burrow from his first season that got hurt after the Chargers game? Just throwing it out there, and he was out the rest of the season. Or are we gonna get the Burrow from last year who came throwing lights out and made it to the Super Bowl to lose? Which one are we actually gonna get? So it kind of could go either way. You never really know, but that's what I like on Aaron Rodgers' team.
Excellent points. So I'm just going to share a couple of concerns. So my one concern about two boobs, two balls, one goal is I actually see Thielen. I'm concerned about his targets. In 2020, Thielen was the number 8 fantasy wide receiver. Justin Jefferson came in, he dropped down to, depending on where you rank, anywhere from 28th to 30th as a wide receiver. He sees about half of the targets that he saw in the previous 2 years before. So I agree. I do agree that Jefferson is going to get double teamed. So I like him in this particular game. Allen Robinson. Will he see a targets increase? That's a concern for me. And will Miami actually feed Chase Edmonds the ball? Like, their running game over the last couple of years, it really just depends on new coach, new philosophy, new offensive system. So I just wonder if he's going to get the rock the way that he needs to. So and as crazy as it sounds, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, that's one of those scenarios where him and the question becomes, somebody's got to catch the ball. Like the Lions, there's nothing I've seen on Hard Knocks or in the preseason that makes me think that they're going out and light the scoreboard up this year. But, I mean, Jared Goff does have an arm. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot because they're going to be behind in games a lot, and somebody has to catch it. So this is going to be a case of bad team. Somebody's going to get 1,200 yards and 8-9 touchdowns because literally someone has to catch the ball when it's thrown. So let's get to it, gentlemen. Who are your picks? Who's your pick for this game?
I take 2 boos, 2 balls, 1 goal.
Cowan?
I'm going Aaron Rodgers.
Then we have a split. I'm also going 2 boos, 2 balls, 1 goal. So, Deuce, you're keeping track of this, right?
Yes, sir. Already got my equations working. We good.
All right. Great. Game number 2, Company Man versus Hanging with Hernandez. Let's switch it up. Jared, talk to me about Company Man's team.
Patrick Mahomes. That man is going to produce. That's all he's done since he's been a consistent fantasy quarterback. I think he's going to produce. You got Michael Pittman against the Houston Texans. My question is he going to be the new T.Y.? Is he going to be the man that told the Texans twice a year and just makes them look at the defensive coordinator like, really? You can't stop him? T.Y. Hilton is good for that. Metcalf. Don't really like him, but I think that Seattle gets blown out. He gets some points in garbage time. Barkley, when healthy, kind of like CMC, is going to produce. And I think they're going to feed him the ball, keep Jones him in the foot. All I'm going to say about Montgomery, I don't like him playing Chicago this year.
Very good points.
Tight end is don't take care for him. CH, real questionable. There's been a lot of hype about a rookie, so I don't know what he's going to do this week. I'm just going to watch the game and be like, maybe he goes off, maybe doesn't. Then we got the tight end for the Eagles. I think that he's going to take a hit because, as I said in the previous one, you don't trade a first round pick for AJ Brown and give him that big extension not to feed him the ball. The target's got to come from somewhere. So
fair enough. All right, Brother Deuce, hanging with Hernandez.
See, to me, this is a very unfair matchup for this week for hanging with Hernandez. My heart goes out to this brother because you got Carson Wentz. Come on, who the hell starts Carson Wentz on purpose? I mean, out of all your other, who does that? I mean, granted, they play in Jacksonville. Okay, that's probably going to be your best chance to get a win. I respect that, but honestly, you play for Washington, whatever the heck they're called now. So, I mean, it's not looking pretty. I know that he slotted for 21 points. That's being overly generous. I mean, let's be real. That's extremely generous. If they score more than 3 points, I'll be shocked, even against Jacksonville's weak defense. I'm just saying. Now, when it comes to the rest of their lineup, I'm not sold on Connor with Arizona personally. He's a solid running back. I liked him in Pittsburgh. I did like him when he got to Arizona, but at the same time, since they do run by committee here for some crazy reason, I don't see him getting as many touches as he could potentially get if he was like the true one back and not having to actually share. The rest of the lineup, I mean, they got Najee from Pittsburgh. Okay, that's fine. Devontae, I'm actually very curious to see what he does with that team in Nevada. But, I mean, let's be real. Derek Carr can throw the rock. I mean, I can't knock that. Adams can catch the damn rock. He quick. I get it. So I'm curious to see. However, the Carter safeties aren't a slouch neither when they're paying attention. They're not slouches neither. So I want to see how many picks Carr throws when he's trying to throw it to Adams, but that's just me personally. I think this is going to be a very one-sided event, but because I kind of agree with Brother Cowan over there, Mahomes is going to put up numbers. I mean, it is what it is. Can Wentz match that? I think we all know. I think my 5-year-old knows the answer to that question. No.
I think that's fair. So I had Carson Wentz as my big red flag for this game. Even though it's kind of a revenge game, he's with a new team, but he's playing the team that basically got him traded. He did so horrible in that game where all they had to do was beat basically one of the bottom 3 teams in the league to make it to the playoffs. They didn't need any help. They controlled their own destiny. All he had to do was go to Jacksonville and win a game. And he came out and just doo-dooed all over himself. Wasn't really an athlete, pissed down his leg. And so he's in a new place now, and he's got good weapons around him. I think that his projected points for this week is very, very generous. I don't see him topping that. On top, but I had to take a look at Buffalo's depth chart and realize Gabe Davis is going to have, I mean, he's got Gabe, they've got Gabe Davis, who is, opposite of Diggs. So he's going to see targets because you have to account for Diggs. You have to account for Knox. Somebody else has got to catch those open passes on those short routes, underneath routes. So he's going to see volume with, no Sanders, no Cole Beasley. So he's going to see an increased workload. Pittsburgh, and we're going to talk about Pittsburgh a lot because we have one particular team that has 17 Pittsburgh Steelers players on it. But just to touch on it, they have a quarterback that's so terrible that Chicago didn't want them as their starting quarterback this year. So I really just don't see how they're not going to be lining up 8 in the box to try to stop basically what's their main weapon, which is Najee Harris. So until Trubisky can prove that the defense is going to have to soften up, I see Najee being bottled up the first couple of games of the season. I'm 100% not worried about Devontae Adams' production this year. Because with the other weapons on the Raiders, and again, I'm not saying this as a fan, this is just a fact. With the other weapons on the team, you cannot double Adams every play because there are other people that are going to beat you, and if you leave them open, they're going to beat you one way or the other. So, and the other part of it is Devontae's been facing double teams since he walked into the NFL, so he's not worried about that. He's been beating those double teams for lots of years, so he's not worried about that either. So, for me, the easy pick in this particular matchup is Company Man. How about you, gentlemen?
Agreed.
I got a Company Man.
All right. So that was unanimous. That one might come back to bite us all for the big upset. All right. Game 3. Kirkwood versus Muff Divers. So I'm going to take Kirkwood first. CeeDee Lamb with the trade of Amari Cooper moves into the wide receiver 1 spot. The Cowboys like to throw the ball. They've got a head coach that loves to throw the ball and push the ball downfield. They have a wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb that has the speed to do that. Travis. So they have a couple of running backs that are very versatile in the fact that they can run and catch, which is key this year for us since we moved to a half PPR this year. But the other part of it, that both of those running backs are both coming off of injuries last year. So it remains to be seen what their production will look like. You have a dual threat quarterback in Jalen Hurts. So I know we're not talking about it right now. You said earlier you didn't really like the Pittsburgh tight end, but I think what we're going to see this year is Hurts is going to have some softening up around the goal line because of his dual threat ability. I think he's going to be able to do some rollouts, a couple of play actions around when they get with that 5 yards and in. That's going to give the Philly tight end some targets in the red zone this year that maybe they didn't have last year when they were just dropping back in zone and seeing if Jalen was going to take off or not. But big challenge for them though, or big plus for them, is the tight end Freiermuth, who was one of 4 tight ends last year to have 9 touchdown receptions on the year. So we know he can catch the ball. We know he's a big target, and will probably be the same this year for a Steelers team, again, that's going to be playing from behind, that's going to have to throw the ball to score points. But he has 4 players from the same team on his fantasy team, 3 of them in this week's starting lineup. Almost statistically impossible that all 3 of those players are going to produce and match the level of their fantasy projections. They're working against each other. So that's going to be a concern, not just for this week, but for the whole season. Jared, you know Muff Divers manager the longest, so talk to us about his team this week. Did Jared freeze on us?
No, maybe. It looked like it.
All right. Well, Deuce. Oh, there he is. You're back, Jared. So talk to us about Muff Divers' team. You've known him the longest.
That was like all I could see was his team is ranked number 1 on the podcast. So I actually went and did I guess you would call it a little bit of a deep dive and looked at his team. Just okay, why did they rank him number 1? And I see why after looking at his roster. Well, I called roster with the set it and forget it players. Lamar Jackson, set it and forget it. It don't matter unless you got somebody else at backup quarterback. No, he don't. You set Lamar Jackson and set it and forget it. Justin Jefferson, set it and forget it. It hurts me to say this, but as a wide receiver too, Keenan Allen, set it and forget it. I think that his running backs are the weakness of his team, DeAndre Swift, because Hard Knocks didn't make – I had him on my team last year, solid player, but I don't know if he's what you consider our RB1 for fantasy. But we are in a PPR aspect, so it might help his production. Singletary. I don't trust their running backs with Josh Allen taking goal line carries. He got Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys. There's no Amari Cooper. Gallup is hurt. Somebody can catch the ball, especially against my Bucks this week because we ain't never been good about covering the tight end. And then he got his flex is bait wide receiver for the Ravens. When Lamar throws it, he mainly throws it to two people. Last year it was Hollywood and the tight end. Hollywood's gone. He inherits those catches, I would think. And I think he works more of that mid-range, which should be good for Lamar, which means he might actually have a good game. Not to mention, they play in the Jets. So let's be real. I don't have high hopes for the Jets.
That's fair. I think all of us would agree with that. The Jets are still the Jets. There's been nothing that would change that perspective. What do you see as concerns for both teams this week, Deuce?
Well, one thing that I see is on Chris's team. I probably would not start Hurts, even though it's against Detroit. I would actually go with his backup Stafford against Buffalo because it will be a shootout. I think that the Philly-Detroit game probably is going to be one-sided. I don't see Hurts playing the whole game. I don't. Whether it's because he gets hurt again or they just pull him out because they up by so much. So, personally, I would switch that. That's just me. That's just my thinking. Muff Divers from that one podcast is number one for a reason. It's kind of like Calvin was saying, set it and forget it. If I had this lineup minus Singletary, I would set it and forget it. I agree also, his running backs are his weakest spot. If I had maybe my running backs in this squad, I'm probably winning this year. But it is what it is.
Fair enough. Yeah, so Singletary and Swift both decent, but both of them had under 1,000 yards rushing last year. I think Singletary had 7 touchdowns. Swift had 4 on the ground. So, again, I think we already know there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for Swift running the ball. It's going to be catches out the backfield. It's going to be swing passes. It's going to be he's just going to break one. But, all right, so let's get to the pick. Who you guys like?
Muff Divers.
Muff Divers.
And we have our second unanimous selection, Muff Divers. All right. Game number 4. Super Mario Cristobalin versus the Big Green. So this was somebody's from the podcast. This was their favorite team name. And even I will admit that this is a very, very inventive team name versus our reigning champion. Deuce, talk to us about Mr. Super Mario's team since he has your favorite team's quarterback.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. Quarterback's the strongest position right now. I mean, and I'm not just saying that to be biased. Quarterback's going to be a strongest position. Herbert's going to get points. Herbert's one of those people. I don't think he's at the Mahomes level yet. I think he will get there because he's young, but he's one of those players you can set and forget. I like Nick Chubb. I like what Nick Chubb's going to do with Cleveland because it's not like they got anything else going on except the running game now since what's his name went to Carolina. Waller at tight end. I thought he was hurt. I thought something happened to him, but maybe he didn't.
He was hurt. He had some injuries that he was dealing with at the end of last year. Been healthy though, so him not being in training camp has been more about his contract negotiation than actual injury. So he's
that makes sense.
I saw a video from today's practice, fully healthy, everything looked good. I'll actually put that down on my notes too.
Okay. Well, Waller's a top 5 tight end in the league. I mean, as much as I don't like his team, you got to give the guy credit. So, with what we got going in the league, he's going to get his catches. He's going to get his 7 to 10 catches a game. Not worried about that. Higgins, even though you got Chase on the other side, Higgins is going to get his yards because Chase got to sit down at some point. So Higgins is going to get his yards. I kind of like what Super Mario's kind of doing over here. I don't know about Gibson being in his flex, but, to each his own.
Yeah, before we go, now let me just throw this in here too. I said the same thing about Justin Herbert, and just real quick, when you look at all of the other wide receivers of the wide receiver pairs, anyone that has a top 5 wide receiver, T. Higgins has the highest rank of the second receiver. So he came in at 15 for points scored last year. So yeah, T. Higgins was a very sneakily good pick for Super Mario's team. Big Green, again, Jared, one of your longtime friends, family friend. What are you thinking?
Prescott is always good to produce, but without a left tackle, questionable. They did say Jason Peters, but Jason Peters is 40, and I don't think that he'll do a whole lot this week. But we'll find out Sunday. You got Taysom Hill, not Taysom Hill, Tyreek Hill. Without Mahomes, you got what I like to call noodle arm Tua. I think, especially this week playing the Patriots, you telling me Bill Belichick can line up and cover 2 and say, let you beat us deep. Not to mention he can't throw it deep, and we're gonna force you. We're gonna keep you in front of us so you don't break no tackles.
That's how you beat Tyreek Hill.
You got Terry McLaurin, who I think that is, but McCullough, the wide receiver for Washington, he's only as good as his quarterback, and we've already talked about. You don't really trust Wentz. No one trusts Wentz. Actually, Washington traded for him, so maybe they trust him, but that's a whole nother story.
That just shows you how desperate they were for anybody. When Fitzpatrick actually retired for real, they were like, well, fuck it, give us Carson Wentz. Go ahead, don't you?
Yeah, like, come on, you can do it. I like this running back pair of Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, because Derrick Henry is he's almost unstoppable because he's so big, so strong. They say 2 things travel in football: defense and running game. And Henry, don't matter if it's raining, snowing, he gonna show run over some people, get yards. Alvin Kamara versus Atlanta. Their strength is actually their cornerbacks. Cornerbacks don't cover Alvin Kamara, they linebackers. As long as Winston checks it down to him, he's gonna get his points. I don't particularly care for the tight end. He had some production last year, but that was because, like you said earlier, Goff had to throw the ball somewhere. So Hawkinson got some catches, but he didn't have any astronomical numbers last year. And then you got Juju Smith-Schuster. There's no more Hill. Mahomes is going to spread the ball around. The question is, how many catches does he get, and what does he do with them? Because if I'm not mistaken, he's on a 1-year contract, so he got to show out, a longer contract, and that starts on Sunday.
Indeed. Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of that. Alvin Kamara had 1,300 all-purpose yards and 9 touchdowns last year in a down year, where the Saints were basically limping through the whole season. He gets a healthy Jameis and a healthy Michael Thomas back this year, which should give him room to operate. And he's got a great backup in Mark Ingram from when he needs a spell, and even when they're on the field together for those certain packages. So they're going to have some room to operate, which will definitely help Kamara. Juju, the question is, will he perform better in a new location, or will he just add to the already TikTok headache that Patrick Mahomes has to deal with his brother and wife already bothering him on the sidelines? So for me, the pick I went with this week, and I know this is going to be controversial, I actually went with the Big Green this week for this game.
Did I?
Oh. Jared?
I can't do it.
Can't pick against your cousin, huh?
It's not because it's my cousin. I don't believe in I just don't believe in some of the players on that team. Like, I don't believe Prescott is going to have a good game. You show me a quarterback that performs well when they left tackle ain't protecting him.
I think that the points from Henry and Kamara are going to balance out the difference between that. Because again, they're going to be loaded up in the box on Jacoby Brissett. That's not going to give Nick Chubb the room he needs to run. And so he also is in a load sharing situation. So I think it's going to be close. If you look at all of the projections of our games this week, all of them are close. I don't think anyone has more than the 3-point projection difference. So I think this is a close one.
What was your pick? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
He went with his cousin. He went with Super Mario.
Anytime the podcast says the roster is fire, you gotta vote for that team.
All right, so we're gonna move into the last two matchups of the week, which this is the first matchup involving one of our hosts. So I'm going to take my old friend 2020 King and break down his team. We're going to ask Jared to break down Mathis King's team. All right, so 2020 King, which is Marcel's team. Again, if you're talking about wide receivers and set it and forget it, I mean, Jamar Chase and Stephon Diggs, like top 5, top 3 producers. Like it's a no-brainer. Against this particular matchup, I like Eli Mitchell because the Bears defense they had a lot of question marks. They had a lot of guys leave. You got a middle linebacker that's so disgruntled that he basically went online, begged to be traded, threatened to retire, and said, F it, I'm going to play this last year, then I'm out of here. I don't like Melvin Gordon. Like in terms of the matchup this week, Melvin Gordon, he gets his carries, but he's still the RB2. So anytime you have your running backs that are in a load sharing situation, it's always iffy when it comes to fantasy. And you hate having your starting running back have to depend on a hot hand situation versus having a solidified role in the offense. So that's my big thing. And then the other thing with tight end, he has a top 5 level talent tight end that hasn't produced to the max of a top 5 tight end yet. But the question becomes with the new quarterback, can he get Pitts? Can Mariota get Pitts the ball? I mean, he has all the talent in the world. He's a walking mismatch, no matter who you put on him. And he's got that kind of talent. If Mariota can get him the ball, he can have a pretty good week this week. So, all right, Jared, talk to us about Mathis King.
It hurts me just a little bit to talk positively about this man's team, but I'm gonna do my best. Kyler Murray at quarterback. They play in Kansas City. You have to keep up with them, score for score, and so Kyler Murray gonna have to show out to keep up with Mahomes. You got Mike Williams, who seems to always give the Raiders a little bit of trouble. I don't think that changes this week.
In my notes, it says Mike Williams, solid wide receiver, tore up the Raiders in an epic Week 18 game last year. So I also give props where props are due.
Yeah. Then you have Hunter Renfrow with Adams outside, with the tight end Waller working. This man is going to eat in the PPR aspect and just stack points for Deuce's team. Dalvin Cook. I don't know about that, but that's up for discussion. But we can talk about that later. Dalvin Cook had a horrible touchdown year last year. I think he's going to come back to the means. Not to mention their offensive coordinator came from the McVay tree. So I think there's going to be some more passes for him to catch to get him out in space. I don't like Ezekiel Elliott because he's playing the Bucs, and all we can do is stop the run. We can't stop the pass real well. So when they do pass it, it goes to Pollard. So that might cause him some problems this week. But then we'll run, I like Zeke. George Kittle's another question mark for me because they had to change their quarterback, and Lance likes to run. So I'm not quite sure how Kittle's performance is going to be affected by Lance pulling down and running. But I guess we'll find out this week. But let's be real. They're playing Chicago. And Chicago has nothing over there that is fantasy relevant, in my opinion. DJ Chark. We're going to find out if a new location does him well, because he's been a solid receiver, but he's just never been great. And he's playing in Detroit. He's playing against Philly, who have pretty good cornerbacks. But he's in the flex, so you expect your flex to be solid, not great. And I think he can be exactly that.
Excellent. So who is your pick this week?
as much as it pains me to say this, I'm gonna go with our fellow host. I believe Mathis King pulls out a close one this week.
It also pains me to say this. I agree. Ironically, I think it's going to come down to Cincinnati's defense scoring points. I mean, they're going up against a walking turnover producing team. So I see them getting a pick six or getting a return for a touchdown that gives that Cincinnati defense a few extra points to put Deuce over the top. All right. And I'm definitely not going to ask you who you think is going to win this week because that would be
I believe in myself.
All right. So, Deuce, since the very last matchup is between Jared and I'm going to ask you to sum up both teams.
All right. I respect that.
The objective.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's start with Highway to Evans. I actually like this roster. I like Moore and I like Kupp. He has solid wide receivers. I like Fournette because he's just a beast. Let's just be honest. They're going to give him the rock and just let him freaking fall and carry people 3 or 4 yards when they're down in the damn goal line. We all know what's going to happen. He's going to get his touchdown. I get that. I can't even say anything negative about Andrews at tight end. Where I think their weak part in Highway to Evans is a huge question mark for me, and that's Kirk Cousins. Because Kirk Cousins is a decent quarterback, obviously, but you never know which Cousins is going to get on the field. You're going to get happy feet Cousins. You're like, oh, crap, let me move and throw the ball the wrong damn direction. So it's like, I like his receivers. He has a solid running back. It's like, but crap, can he throw the ball under pressure? So that's where I'm a little concerned about him. And Cleveland's defense just made me laugh, so I'm just going to disregard that one. Now, when it comes to Devastator, I like how Devastator took Tom Brady and Evans from Highway to Evans. So I kind of find that a little bit funny on my end because I was sitting there when he was picking them. I'm like, of course he did that. You can't go wrong with that matchup because he likes throwing deep to Evans. He's like getting Evans when he's randomly wide open in the slant, which I don't know how the hell no one sees that. It's like, put somebody on this damn man, please. But no, they just want to leave him. And Evans is like, okay, I'll go on and just stroll into the end zone because nobody want to guard me. I like Taylor. I like Pollard at running back, even though Pollard's sharing the rock with Zeke. I get it. Zach Ertz. I like him at tight end only because Murray needs a blanket. And we all know who likes tight ends in this damn league. So he picked a pretty good safety blanket for Kyler Murray. This is going to be a fun matchup to watch. I'm not going to lie. Outside of my game, this is the one I'm most interested in because I want to see who's the most upset at the end of the day. So, with that said, I'm going to tell you exactly who I think is going to win because I'm pretty sure I'm going to pick each other. And this is really painful for me because I hate everything this person's team stands for. You know, if I had to pick a team to drop kick off this damn planet, it would be this person's team. So I would say Devastator is going to win. That's who I got.
You know, I appreciate. I know that had to hurt. I know that had to hurt, but I appreciate you giving us your break now. Just real quick, because Deuce and I have another draft in about 8 minutes. I had some of the same things that you saw with Highway to Evans, Cooper Kupp. Jerry Jeudy's going to eat this year. He's got a quarterback that hits his receivers. You know, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, they're going to be feeling the sting of missing Russ all season. And the Broncos are going to appreciate him even more of having a rock solid QB throwing them the ball. I actually had a question about the Bucs O-line and if they can actually open up those holes for Fournette. Fournette does a lot of dirty work, but I don't know. The Cowboys defensive, their weakness is the back end of the defense. They're pretty solid up front. So it'll be interesting to see if Fournette, and my very last comment was, which Kirk Cousins will show up? Is it Happy Feet Kirk or is it did you like that Kirk, to see who wins this game for him? All right. So big NFL matchups this weekend. Jared's traveling to Dallas to see his Bucks take on the Cowboys up in Jerry World. And Deuce and I have a matchup where our favorite teams are picking up right where they left off at the end of last season. So Thursday night through Monday night, we got a whole lot of good football kicking off this first week of the NFL season. So we appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to do this with me today. Looking forward to coming back together next week to see who was right, who was wrong, who won the weekly high points, which we'll see how that goes for those of us who are participating. And if you are interested in being a guest this season, just shoot us a message. We want to invite probably one guest a week to come on and share their thoughts with us. So you never know when your week will be. But until then, we'll see you all next week. Good luck to everybody except for Jared and the Chargers this weekend.
I expect nothing less. I do.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good night. Deuce, I'll see you in 5 minutes.
All right.
All right.